This is an example of the puns and by-name linkages that we find over and over again due to the nature of ancient writing and the icons that were used, and also the nature of the people themselves. They liked puns, and they had a real genius for it. And also, since it was the universal deity worshipped by people of many different languages, we even find punning that crosses the linguistic barriers. So, beginning with the name, we're going to look at this example here of the name Yah and the by-names of the deity Yah, how it is that they are, it can be traced as the same deity. Now, when we look at the glyph in ancient Babylon for the deity Yah, spelled E-A, we find the same kind of wavy line, which is quite appropriate, that is the hieroglyph for the value in and for water in Egypt. Of course, in Sanskrit, there's the NHR, like Nara, N-A-R-A-H. There's Nara, which means water. And the H here could have been used as a semi-vowel, a type of a nar. But NHR in the Egyptian is the spelling for Nile. For NHR, the R and the L glyph were the same, so we get NHL, Nile, meaning water, but also in L, Nila, in the Sanskrit, it means blue. And the deity Yah, Jupiter, or Zeus or Amun, was always depicted as being blue. Vishnu is always depicted as being blue, or Nila. This deity, this blue deity, Hop or Amun and so forth, is Yah, the Chaldean Yah. Now, he's depicted with the glyph, which is not only has the phonetic value in and means water, but the deity of water is Hapi or Hop. He's the god of the water. Appa in the Egyptian, or Ap, also means water, and specifically to bathe or water used as a ritual. And in Sanskrit, Narayana is also, or Yah is also Apadeva. Scholars say that the AQ somehow or another is a derivative from the AP, meaning water, in the West, and Apadev had a by-name, Yada, from the root Yah. Go back to Yah again. Okay, Yah, or was a mystical name of Vishnu as Purusha and also as Matsya. Just the A or a long A or AH was named for Matsya. Now, Matsya is depicted as a great fish, a dolphin-type fish, with Vishnu from the waist up extending out of the mouth of the fish with his forearms and his symbols and so forth. This is just an iconographic way of expressing that actually this is Vishnu in the form of a fish. But in the Western world, Dagon Hari, there's the name Hari. Dagon is kind of a generic term for a god. Sa may be a masculine prefix. Hari is the deity of the Hurrians, also deity Dagon Hari was Canaanite form of Yah, which was depicted with the body of a man, four-armed, and the lower body of a fish. And this is the same form that the priests of Yah depicted Yah in the temples in ancient Chaldea. There's not Babylon, but there's another city, I think Erech, or Dvorka. That area there, the temples had depictions of Yah with the lower part of their body as a fish. And in fact, the priests themselves dressed up in fish suits in the Yah temple in that area. So anyway, Yah Matsya is clearly Dagon Sahari, and so he's Yah, and Yah, as we saw before, is Hapi, hidden. Now here's the second meaning of hidden. We come a full cycle here around to the form of Yah, which of course is, and I already explained how Delphinos saved Noah and so forth, and the relationship between the Babylonian Yah and the Hebrew Yah and the flood story. So, that plug all that in right here. Now, we go off on another cycle. Here's Hapa, or Apadave, hidden, back up here. We take off from here. It has a second meaning, and that means to be hidden. It's which is synonymous with the meaning of Amen, to be hidden. There's a linguistic relationship between the Hebrew Amen and the Om as a blessing, an invocation, pious expression before prayer, and an after prayer petition, or as a petition itself, or it's used so many different ways, but many scholars agree that there's some connection between the Christian and the Old New Testament of Amen and Om. Now, this is again the hidden God, Amen, and Yah is the hidden God. And here's the word, the Amen, A-H-M-N, this is the name of the deity, as just as in Purusha and per this, per that, and per the other in Egyptian, Pelias and so forth. This would have been per Amen, which is very similar to Brahman, and like for instance in the north, the doctrines of per Ram Atma. This may have been the doctrines of Brahman, and interestingly enough, they seem to have had, between the north and the south of Egypt, the more monist type of a theology, as opposed to the more intensely personalist cult of Heliopolis. In any event, there's definitely, this is the hidden God, or the all-pervasive spirit, or the force, the Spirit of God, which is related to the doctrine of Amen, the hidden spirit in all matter. So, actually, Hapi, or Abi Dave, at Memphis, was considered to be an aspect of a single deity that had these three aspects, Hap, Soker, Ta. And again, this deity equals this deity, and this deity is Shukrabala, and this deity here is Ptah, the father of the gods. Ptah is Abba, Abba or Abi, the primal god, or the father of the gods. So we're back to Hap, the second meaning of Hap, not hidden, but the meaning of Hap, which is to be superior or above or primal and so forth, which is the glyph for this. The glyph for this here, Pita, related to Abba, father, or the prime, or the original, and so forth, it would be the the horns glyph. The meaning of Hapa hidden here is the glyph for that is the two lines, one over the other, and several glyphs of showing a man's hand or a man holding something behind his back, or showing an object covered. And then the Apodave, this one here and this one here, the glyph would be the priest pouring the ablution, and the water being sprinkled for the baptism, and the glyph for in, which is water. So we here have the three meanings with the water association. We have the hidden God association, and we have the primal or superior, as in the Sanskrit Abi, father by being primal, father by association there, that meaning. And that brings us to Pitter, like Dispeter, Pita. Now, the god Hap-Sokrata was also, this deity was worshipped as Hap-Sokrata Usur. Another by name, in other words, another by name, another form of Ta was Usur, another form of Sokra was Usur, another form of Hapi was Usur, or Usha, or Osha in the Greek, being, spirit, and so forth. And his embodiment was as the Purusha, or the Palias, you see, and his and of course his further manifestation was as Helios, the compound deity. He was a Hari Purusha, like Heliopolis. He was Hari. Hari is Eli. Eli is Yah. And actually, this is just a very rudimentary explanation of these by-name linkages in that part of the world at the time, and how they relate to the by-names of Vishnu or Krishna, Narayana, Vasudeva, and so forth, in the East. And the importance of this, of course, is that it shows very clearly that we're not dealing with just some superficial kind of syncretism where a bunch of people got together, or some scholar decided to equate in a haphazard way a whole bunch of deities with each other. But we're looking at a very sophisticated complex of things that regard doctrine and relative to doctrine and practices, with very profound meanings. I'm talking about the hidden aspects of the deity, all these different forms that are associated with such profound thought in the West, and in the great philosophers, and in the East, in the Upanishads, and so forth. And we're seeing incredibly complex and elegant word plays and puns and things that are associated in the natural order. And obviously, this isn't the product of some kind of haphazard syncretism. This is actually the outgrowth of the worship of one supreme deity, and many years of meditation on that supreme deity in his various manifestations in the world, and related to the worship of this universal deity by people and scholars who have a tremendous amount of interaction with each other, and have some familiarity with each other's languages, and so that this religion itself is not a type of syncretism in this negative, with this negative connotation that people give it, as just a concoction devoid of internal meaning and consistency. Instead, it's a very profound witness to the survival and development of systematized theology related to the Supreme Lord. Now, just due to time limit and resource limitations, I haven't been able to make a presentation of all of the information, principal points of information related to the Shakti of the Lord. And I want to touch on, I have all that information as well. Every place that you find the masculine form of the deity, you find his corresponding feminine form. And so that there's equally as much astounding information regarding the Shakti of the Lord as there is in the masculine form of the Lord himself. I want to briefly mention a few of these things, areas which are very important to connect. Some major names and forms of the Shakti of the Lord. Rhoda is Radha. Kore, Hare. Now these are all by names again, just as before we saw that, and I'll run through them in a moment, but I want you to notice first the correspondences. Kore is Hare. Astrea is Astraya. Stella. These are different versions of the same word, means star. Stella, Tara, Basileya, Vasudevi, or Vasudha is another form of it in Sanskrit. Isis, Lucius, Lucina, Rukmini, Mater, Mata. Now we'll go through the by-name connections here. Rodha is the name of so-called Helios Cross consort in the supreme, the earthly type of the supreme abode, the giant pink flowered dvipa or island, which is named after his consort. A by-name of Radha is Vrinda, and the supreme giant pink flower abode of Krishna, the supreme abode, is named after his consort's by name, his consort Radha's by names, either Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan, where there's the name Vrinda in there, or Padma, the great giant lotus dvipa of the spiritual world, of Goloka. So, Kore is a by name of Rodha, the consort of Koros. Kore is the feminine form. Hare, or Horus, or Helios, is the masculine form, and to the Horus, Koros, the feminine form of Hari, or Krishna, is Hare, Radha. So we see Koros and Kore, and we see Helios, or Suryas, or Hariyas, or Hari and Hare. Astrea is a celestial form, obviously, of the consort of Helios, and Astraya is when one makes the Sri Yantra, which is the Megan David. That is the symbol of Sri, and it is a star. And when one makes the symbol of the Sri Yantra in Vaishnava rituals, they recite Astraya. So that proves that it is in fact a star or Tara, Sanskrit. Here's the root right here, Tra. Tara in Sanskrit means star, and the Sri Yantra, the symbol of Sri or Lakshmi, the consort of Vishnu, is the Astraya or Tara. Now, in Mahayana Buddhism, of course, the consort of Lokeshvar is Tara, and her symbol is the Sri Yantra. Again, we see in the Western world the six-pointed star on grave seals, ancient grave seals of the Jews, and that six-pointed star is associated with Helios. Basileia, or the sacred queen, is the title of like the sacred king in the West. Basileia is the sacred queen, and just as the Koros and Kore pastoral, youthful forms of Helios and his consort, they are corresponding to Radha and Krishna. Krishna has his kingly form as Vasudev, and he has his consort whose name is Rukmini. Of course, he actually has so many other wives in all the Vaikunthas as the sacred king Vasudev of the city of Dwarka. On earth, he had, this is the story, 16,108 wives, which he saved from the demons. But he is called Vasudeva, and his consort is called Vasudevi or Vasuda. Vasuda is also a by-name of Tlasi, or the sacred basil. Basil, of course, is related to Basileia. Basileia is a title of Juno as the sacred queen, whereas Jupiter is Basileos. This is the feminine. So we see a total connection there with the Vasudevi or Vasuda and the Basileia. Isis, who is shown on one side with her sister on the other side of Purusha or Ushur, Osiris, she and her sister are none other than dawn and dusk, or the dawn and the nighttime. And we see here the feminine form of Ushur, or Usha, in the Sanskrit as Ushas. And she, of course, is some places depicted as the consort of the sun, or Surya, which is a by-name of Krishna, or Helios. So Isis is Ushas. Lucina is Rukmini. Linguists have for a long time known that, here's the R and the L business again, that this root here, luch, or luk, is in fact the Sanskrit ruch or ruk. And when you read the dictionaries, you see that they have the same meaning. And then even the suffix on the name is similar. But this is a consort, of course, of Krishna again. And this is the moon. And the moon as the consort, as a symbol of Radha, Rodha, the consort, feminine moon as the consort of the masculine sun. Mater, of course, is mother, and then you again have the Indo-European root there, Mata. She's the mother of the world, and so forth, the Shakti of the Lord. Mata is, of course, associated, with so many different forms of the Lord's Shakti are referred to as a mother of the different beings. So here you can see the by-name correlations. These are all connected to the Shakti of the same deity, and the very same connections are down here in the, and of course the linguistic connections are obvious. The root, the word Rodha, means variously the color rose, the flower rose, or any red or pink flower. And Radha always wears a red dress, and she very often holds a red rose. So all the way down the line, this of course means the youth and so forth as compared to Koros. So all of the different connections are there, and the evidence again is incontrovertible. Of course, and now the Greeks referred to the Jews, Yah, Deo, of course, the deity, or Yah. And the Yadeo is the people of the deity Yah. Actually, the late form at the time of Christ was, here's Yah, Deorum, the plural. And the Yadavas, again, the meaning is here the same. Yadava is Krishna, of course, and the Yadavas are the people of Krishna. It's important when you look at the names that we've already discussed before, Ishus, Nazarenus, Rex, Judaeorum. The INRI on the cross stood for those words, Ishus, Nazarenus, Rex, Judaeorum. So that the actual translation of the inscription on the cross was Yashas Narayana Raja of the Yadavas, King of the Yadavas. It was salvation of Yah, Narayana, Son of Man, King of the Yadavas. The Sagaz is a name or term that is Sagaz is a name or term that is frequently used interchangeably with Hapiru in ancient sources. And from what I've been able to determine, it actually means something related to having been shaped or being shaped. Of course, the Sakas were the family of Siddhartha Gautama Buddha. Now, the meaning there is usually given as SK, like Shuka or Shukra in the Sanskrit, meaning to be white or to be pure. But in either case, the Sagaz are a people that were spread way over to the area of Afghanistan, where Buddhism was very prominent early on. And the Sagaz were very closely related to the Apiru, and in many cases the term was used interchangeably with Apiru. The Apiru were the people of Hapi or Abhidev or Narayana, and these were the Hebrews. Again, we look at the one meaning of Hapidev, and we also get the Hyperboreans, which were people that were worshippers of Hapi. And a third relationship there with Uparayana, Parayana meaning in the Sanskrit to cross over, like Upindra, a name of Vishnu, and directly related to the translation of Hyperion, the deity, earlier name or another name of Helios. Hyperion was the deity of the Hyperboreans. So all of these names are people of the Lord related to that particular holy name. Christians are Christianas. I already described that derivation before. The word propheta, in the Greek was used for the persons in the Old Testament. It was also used for the oracles of the Helios cult. However, it was before it was associated with oracles or people that seers that saw the future. It was originally the name of the high priests of the fire sacrifice in Egypt, and scholars have commented on that fact. And then if we look at the Vaishnava tradition again, we see here are the Prohita. That is the name of the high priest officiating at the fire sacrifices in the Vishnu cult. Saint in English, Santa in Latin. Santa in Sanskrit, or Santo, is a title. It means peaceful or renounced and so forth. And it is the also Shantras, which is related to it, is considered to be one of the first relationships that is developed between the soul and God is a relationship of peace and sanctity, that peace which passes understanding, so to speak, that one has when they reestablish their relationship with the Supreme Person. And the term itself is used exactly the same way that saint is used in the Western world. It's a title of respect used for renounced persons, saintly persons. And interestingly enough, right down to modern times, santo or santa is used amongst Vaishnavas, especially in a particular school of Vaishnavism. It's still currently being used as a title of the advanced persons in that school. It's also come into use now by the Sikhs as well and others. For instance, in Delhi, the Sikhs have a guru that they call Sant Narankari Baba. And here we have these are various titles of respect which are related to the ancient Egyptian determinative for the demigod or the godly, HR, Herr in German, Sir in English, Hur in Egyptian, Her in Hebrew, Sir in Egyptian, and Shri in Sanskrit. All titles of respect given various meanings, but all clearly from the root HR or SR, the name of God, and in the Egyptian, the determinative figure glyph for the godly or the demigods or the elect of God. Now, these particular words, this one here I don't have any other corroboration for, but it's interesting. I'm throwing it in there just for comparison. This one, of course, aristocracy and hierarchy. These are quite well established. The hierarch, of course, or hierogamos, being the priest of the mysteries, the priest of the Asila federations of temples. These were the HR hierarchs and so forth. Here, Archos here is the other name of the Lord from Archie. But the hierarchy and aristocracy and so on and so forth are all showing that relationship that we see up here of the free man or the godly or the elect of God. All of the earlier examples I gave of the root name of God, Eli, we see as for instance, I don't have it on here, the Elohima, the plural of Eli that are mentioned in the Old Testament, sometime referring to the Godhead of Hari, which includes his immediate expansions, sometimes referring to the people of Hari. So in this case, we see the Hurrians, Syrians, Hari, this is a breakdown, Hari Yanas or Ayanas also would be another way of writing it. The Aryans, and over here, Suberians. Actually, I should have. This is a by name too. It's related here, but I have to. I should have put this up on the other line. Suberians. I've described earlier how this is actually comparable to the V, and it's actually a Suvarianus. Suvar Ayanas. So a Suvar, as in Suvarga. The Spartoi are related to the Subartu. This is by name is Habatu, and these people are associated over and over again with the Abira. The Subartu, of course, this term is earlier used in the Near East, and the Spartoi, the term used in the Greek, for the people that had the Nagas, they were Anguipeds, Erecteds, and so forth. whose family center was Dwarka or Erech. And this is interesting from the standpoint of the family of Krishna, the Yadus that kept the tattoos of the Nagas on their bodies. They worshipped Ananta Sheshanaga. And again, the Spartans and the Argives worshipped the original Heracles as having a brother, twin, or not a twin brother, but having a brother, and they were the duo sacred kings of Sparta and Argos, who rode the white horses and were called the Vasudevas, and they're clearly a remembrance amongst this people of Krishna and Balaram as in Dwarka. The pun I mentioned, I think I described earlier elsewhere in this thesis on the business about the erect heads, the anguipeds, having the snake feet on the section on Nagas. Asuras, not asuras. I described that earlier. The Marianas in the kingdom of Hari were a Kshatriya family. As again, the Spartoi were Kshatriyas, Subartu were Kshatriyas, and so forth. The Marianas, Hurrian Marianas, were a class that were very expert in the use of horses, and they were pretty elite. And the Mauryans, as in Chandragupta Maurya, of course, are a very famous Kshatriya family of Vaishnavas. Again, here are the some various forms: Negus, Nahash, Nahusha in Hebrew, all are the mystical serpents. Again, where we see Nagas and Nahusha in the Sanskrit, the mystical serpents of the Yadava dynasty. And also in Egyptian, in the Book of the Dead, we see the serpent, I don't have it on here, a serpent called In-K, which is obviously related to the In-G root, the In-G root, the In-G root here of the Anglopeds and so forth. And also in Angle, Ankle, Angirasa, Aganeste, and all the others that I mentioned earlier. An important one that I don't have on here is the Parthians. The Parthian people, or Partha, repeatedly gave shelter to the Hebrews, to the Jewish people, actually the Jews, when the Jews were being persecuted during various times in their history. They took refuge, and in times of famine and so forth, they bought grain from Partha, from the Parthians. I'm saying Partha because, of course, Partha means actually was a name of Arjun. Arjun is Krishna's best friend in the epic of the Mahabharata, and Partha means son of Prithu, I believe. But anyway, the Parthians would be the descendants of Prithu, the great King Prithu, and they always had a very good relationship with the Jews. Apparently. And now here we see Pontus. This may very well be related to Pandu, as in the Pandavas. The Pandavas were the other great heroes of the Mahabharata. Pontus, of course, was the area around the southern part of the sea that Sinope was the capital of, and the place where the deity in the vision to the Greek king of Egypt told the king to send his ambassadors to fetch the form of the Lord from the temple there. And the other witnesses said that it was the deity worshipped there was the Argive Zeus, or Jupiter Infernales. And the murti or icon that was taken from Pontus to Egypt then was the traditional murti of Serapis. Now the Egyptians called the people, the Syrians or Aharians or Hurrians, in the land of Mitanni or the kingdom of Hari or Narayan, north of the Holy Land, the Kurus. And of course the Kurus are the other branch of the family that the Pandavas fought with in the Great War of the Mahabharata. I mentioned this earlier. These are suffixes on the end of Greek names, which means son or servant of, and of course in Sanskrit, this is the tradition of Vaishnavas to have the das affixed, or dasi, which is feminine, affixed to the end of the name, to be given a Kristayana name, which is a name of God, or a name of a great servant or devotee of God, and have the das at the end of the name, of course meaning servant of. Also, in Greek, pour on the end of the name would mean the same thing. It means body, and it would mean body of or servant of so-and-so. And pour in Sanskrit means body, and it was also a devotee name suffix, as in Ramachandra Puri and so many different contemporary, this can be seen in contemporary use. In fact, there are some Vaishnavas for whom the Puri is like Yati, or it's a title of respect kind of amongst them. Here is the Basiris, a legendary, and this is from Busiris in the Nile Delta. Osiris was actually the name of the deity of the very earliest recorded inhabitants of the Vrindavan Mathura area. So again, we see a possible connection there, strong evidence for it, considering that the Vrindavan Mathura area is the capital of Purusha, Krishna or Vishnu worship. The angels, of course, are the lowest rank of heavenly beings in the Judeo-Christian tradition, and the word itself is derivative from Angras. Angras was actually the Angrasas are a whole, not just a class of beings, but denote religious affiliation. So that Gora Angras was the teacher of Krishna in the line of the Brahma Surya tradition. Synagogue is from the Greek synagogue, and it means sin is the, remember earlier I mentioned the Sanskrit sam, and the Egyptian sma means to bring together or unite, and this is the Greek means to drive or to pull or to cause to come together. And in the Sanskrit, there are a number of variations on this, which are all found in Vaishnava texts and refer, in many cases, specifically to a sadhu sangha, or a conclave or a meeting of sadhus, santas, or saints. The longer form of the word is samagama. There's a typo here, samagama, and the shorter versions are sangha and samaja, which are currently still in use. The Buddhists, of course, have their sanghas. So here we can see that what is the synagogue of the Jews is the synagogue of Greek Jewry, and the samagama, the sanghas, and so forth and samajas of the Vaishnavas, and again the sanghas of the Mahayana Buddhists. So we have a single term from west to east again, denoting a particular group of people, and of course the term synagogue, meaning a building, is simply by derived by association from a conclave or group of men, a sadhu sangha. In the cult of Dionysus and Helios and so forth, the sacred wedding, or the rites or the tradition of Heracles and Hebe, the juvenalis and juventa the youthful form Koros and Kore, of Helios and his consort, or Hari and his consort, they have their tryst in the Bokolion, which translates, a place of cow protection. Bo is cow in the Greek. And Gokula, of course, is Goloka Vrindavan has its earthly counterpart in Gokula, which is again related to the worship of Radha and Krishna. The sacred king, the Vasudeva and Zeus, is born in the Bosala, and of course the direct place where Krishna was taken for protection after his birth was the Goshala, and Jesus Christ was born in the Goshala, or the cow barn, place of cow protection again. I already described this one, and Goloka is the flower dvipa. Now, Radamantis, there's a lot of speculation about what this name of the great judge of the underworld in the Greek tradition meant, this name, but it's clear from an ancient source that describes a people or a person knowing that Radamantis had been there because of the storax that was growing in the area. What that means is that actually the name meant Radha's mint. Mantis is a form of mint or minta in Greek, and this is just a form of rodha. Now, where the now they say they don't know what the in these translations, what plant storax actually referred to, except that it was a member of the Labiate family. The Labiate family is the aromatic herbs, sweet aromatic herbs of the mint family, which includes all the basils, the storax, the hyssop, and so forth. Of course, hyssop, the term used in the Old Testament, they don't know what plant that was specifically either, except it was a member of the very same family. In parts of the world where the mountain basil does not grow, which is the plant usually used for, considered as tulsi, very sacred to Krishna Vishnu in Asia. Where that plant does not grow, people cultivated any available member of the sacred Labiate family as sacred to Vishnu or the supreme deity. And this might have included red mint or Radha's mint. It might have included any kind of mint. It might have included any kind of basil or hyssop or pennyroyal, all different kinds of, I can't remember now, there's probably about 150 of them. And they all have the same mode of growth, same type of leaves, same kind of flowers, and they all are very aromatic. The sacred mountain of Helios was Mount Mintha, where he sported with the muses dancing in the circular chorus dance. And of course, then, there's the whole business about Vrindavan and all that kind of stuff. Also, even in the Ramayana, the sacred Tulsi plant is mentioned, reference to it as the all-heal, in the West, all-heal Heracleum, which is the herb that Heracles, that's associated with Heracles again, and sacred to the Vasudeva. That is why it's called that's why it's called basil. From Vasu, Vasuda or Vasudevi is a by-name of sacred basil. Anyway, a by-name of Kore, as in chorus and Kore, is Mintha. And the story is that she was kidnapped by this many-headed demon driving a chariot drawn by mules and taken to hell, and Koros had to descend into hell to save her. This has elements, of course, of the Orpheus story and elements of the Ramayana and so forth. But clearly, again, here we have Mintha or Vrinda or Tulasi or sacred basil or the sacred Labiate as Kore, and their association with the whole business about hell and the Lord's descent into hell to save his beloved. Vrinda, again, is a by-name of the sacred basil. And in the story of the Ramayana, I wanted to finish that the scene in which the Lord is wounded, gravely wounded, Hanuman is sent to find the all-heal, so to speak, herb on the sacred mountain, and he doesn't know which one it is, so he brings back the whole mountain. That's devotional service. But anyway, the whole association of this herb, aromatic herb, with the salvation of souls, and goes way back, and is also involved in the cult of Yah. In the Gilgamesh epic, we see that the hero who is dead or near death is revived by the smelling of the sacred herb, and also it's said that the Kumaras were saved from impersonalism by the smelling of the sacred herb. And in Murtis of Krishna in Vrindavan, it grows on the ground, and it's always on the Lord's feet and the gopis' feet. In this world, Vaishnavas venerate the Tulasi tree, and they plant her in raised beds and so forth to protect her. But interestingly enough, in the old temples in Jerusalem, temple days, everyone would offer this herb, some type of sacred labiate, to the Lord. It was enjoined upon them to do this, and after it was offered to the Lord, the rabbis would throw it out to the devotees, who would dance before the Holy of Holies in the area that they were permitted. And it's described that the smell of the temple would always be very sweet from the squashing of these leaves by the feet of the dancing devotees. So there's also a connection with the Usur cult and the use of the sacred basil or labiate in funerary rites. It's known that this leaf would be placed in the mouth of the deceased or on the eyes of the deceased, and similarly last rites in India included giving the person for the last time sacred basil tulasi leaf offered to Vishnu, and they would actually even open the mouths of the corpses before they burned them or interred them to place a tulasi leaf in them. Again, this is associated with Mary, and in Christianity, always the basil gardens, sacred basil gardens, and always the by-name of Juno Satyrea, which is the basil, Basileia, the queen, and so forth. The seven hills of Rome. An interesting thing about that is that the Lord was worshipped there in Rome under so many different names, and with his temples there. And the Lord is Venkateshwara in South India is called Saptagiri Raja. He's the king of the seven hills, and his temple complex is on the seven hills, of course, again, the sacred seven. And there he is worshipped with two consorts, and again at Rome, there are two Shaktis worshipped with Capitoline Zeus. The dome of the cathedral, the domain of the Western king, God, Dominus, the supreme dominator, Latin, Dhamma in Sanskrit. Linguistic connection here is very well established. This is the abode of Krishna, is his Dham, and it can be his Dhamma. It can be the temple. It can be of course the whole land realm, whatever. But Krishna is ultimately the great dominator. He's the Lord of all realms. Was the capital of the Wasadale in southern Egypt, the city known as Thebes, and this is the same word as Vastu in Sanskrit, with the root Vas. And in this is as in Vastupati, it by association it means house or dwelling place. Vas meaning being, the dweller in the body, and Vastu is the house. Vasu itself, as in the Vas W-S scepter of the Vasudevas, and Vasuki in Sanskrit is a name of the serpent Sheshanaga, Ananta Sheshanaga. So this is a main city of the Hurrian kingdom. Shouldn't be any hyphen there. Vashukani, and it was Vasu something, or it might have been Vasuki on there, something like that. But it's probably related, considering that these Hurrian people had this large element, the Subartu, in them that used the Naga symbol for their family. Heliopolis was called On by the Hebrews, and Avon by the Greeks. There may be some relationship here because it was a heaven, so to speak, of the worshippers of Hari. One might also check this. I haven't checked this myself yet, but I think it's worth looking at. The important thing about the city of God and the temple complex regarding the repose of the body in a sepulcher, or however, stupa, or the catacombs, for instance, the doctrine is, of course, that the spirit soul goes to the spiritual realm, but that the mortal remains themselves should finally repose in the earthly type of the spiritual abode, so that when one wore on their person the marks of their Lord, or a relic or talisman like the Tulasi beads of the Vaishnava, then if they left their body or fell gravely ill, they would be taken always to the earthly type of their Lord's abode. Someone finding a body with Vaishnava Tilak on it would go and report this to the priests of the nearest Vishnu temple, and they would see that the body was returned to its home parish, so to speak. And similarly, in latter times, with the advent of the schismatic groups, different religions, the marks or the talismans served, and the tantra and so forth, to identify the members of different groups, served to even take care of their bodies after they passed away. The relationship here has already been discussed. There should be a Y. Narayam I've already described how this word has been, how it's related to Nazarenus and Nazareth, and how it is related to the Sanskrit Narayana, so that the Nazarene cultus is actually the Naharayam, or the Narayana cultus of Vaishnavism. There's a typo here. This should be Ayarawatas, and it's a name of an Hurrian city, ancient Hurrian city, location unknown, north of Judea, and this is a name of one of the Pandava capitals, main city of the Pandavas, and it, as well as Hastinapur, indicated that this capital was a city of elephants. And I mentioned earlier how the root ng in the word naga actually is a name for elephant, as well as for snake. In the Hebrew, Nahash is the direct correspondent of Naga, means mystical serpent or heavenly serpent, and Ir is the early form of PR, or Pur. This city was also, its location was unknown. It was north of Judea as well. So this may have been the same city, just as Nagapur was a name of the city Airavata, and this city was a capital of the Pandavas. Well, we have here Ir-Nahash, which directly translates Nagapur, and it's in the northern area, location unknown, as is Ayurawatas, and the ancient source that this city is found in deals with warring between the king of Hari and so forth. And that area right up to the seacoast was the ancient land of Pontus, which may have been the land of the Pandavas. Whether these are the original sites mentioned in the Vaishnava texts or not is really beside the point. All that we can really establish is that these places were named after or associated in some way with the places and the peoples mentioned in the great Vaishnava epics. There were at least two major mounts Olympus, and very important deity names and city names were repeated throughout the ancient world, just as we have so many cities named Memphis or any other common city name in the world repeated. So many churches named the same thing. What is worth repeating is repeated over and over again throughout the centuries, and so all we can say for sure is that they were part of the same cultural complex, the same religious complex. We already discussed this. Amaru is very important. This is another capital of the cult of Hari in the West, and if we look at the Sanskrit name of this blessed abode, this heaven of Hari, we see the root Mara, or Mara, meaning death, and the negative prefix A, meaning the deathless place. And there's a name of Vishnu there are several names of Vishnu and Krishna with this word in them, Amara, meaning that he is the god of the deathless. And so one of his heavens is Amaravati. Now, The fact that this city probably meant the same thing as Amara, and means in the Sanskrit, can be seen in the occurrence of this root, mar, in mortal and martyr and such words in the West. The form of martyr with the T in it also is found in Sanskrit in the word martya. So there's a good reason to believe that this heaven of the deity, of the same deity, is this heaven, the temple named after it, and the city named after the temple. The Greek atomos was originally, of course, the individual, and it was the atma of the Vaishnava tradition, the finite spirit soul. And the Greek atomists, unfortunately, in the Western world, the beginning of a lot of our materialistic problems begin with the impersonalization of the Atma by some of the Greek philosophers. And it wasn't the individual, but it was an indivisible material thing, and it lost the meaning of being in the spirit soul, so that no longer was spirit the foundation of matter. In any event, spheros, like hydros and pharaoh, is again the HR. That's why the hieroglyph of the circle, as in choros, the chorus actually means a dance in a circle, the rasa dance, which is named after choros, Helios, or Horus, or see, we have Horus here, and HR or PHR, like in Pharaoh. These are all related to the Lord's name, the root name SR, HR. And the sphere or circle here, we have the realm of the Lord's effulgence or Brahmajyoti. In Vaishnavism, just as the symbolism is that just as the light, the infinitesimal sparks of light are emanated, eternally being emanated from the sun body, and that in the interior of the sun there's situated the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose presence is actually the cause of the light of the sun and the light of all of the universe. In the spiritual realm, the jiva souls are actually the atmas, individual spirit sparks, are actually eternally being manifested from the Supreme Being Himself, seated or situated, who is situated in His supreme abode of Goloka Vrindavan. And so this term here, atmaspheros, is the realm of the atmas, the realm of the effulgence of Hari, manifest in the material world, the sky, or domain of the effulgence of God. And a synagogue, we already discussed how it's a place by association of the people that meet. And paradise, in the Greek paradisio, again, this is a good example of a word that is found in the Hebrew, the Sanskrit, and the Greek. Paradesha is a realm, a land beyond, a place of para or Vishnu. It also means a far place or a distant place beyond. And here it's usually translated as a garden beyond, or land beyond. In Hebrew, it's usually translated as garden beyond. Paradesha is also used kind of in a generic sense in some Sanskrit sources to mean foreign land or any distant place. Alaya in Sanskrit means kind of eternal or indestructible. And so, for instance, Himalaya, the indestructible mountains or eternal mountains. And Vasu, of course, is being, Vas again, being the dweller or dwelling place, or the dweller within, the spirit and being, so forth. And again, here's Basileia in the Greek New Testament, the kingdom of God, the eternal or indestructible kingdom of God, is called the Basileia. So just as the sacred king is Vasudeva or Vasudeo or Basileo, and the sacred queen is Basileia, similarly, here the abode, the eternal abode of the sacred king and queen is the Basileia. So in the Lord's Prayer, when it says, "Thy kingdom come," this is the eternal kingdom of God. Indestructible kingdom of God, Basileia. The netherworld, from Netter, as I already described, although Netter was originally the Coptic, related to the Coptic word used for God in the earliest Coptic Bibles, later on Netter was diabolized because they were thinking of all of the forms of the deity in Egypt as demons, pagan demons or malevolent beings. And so that the abode of the blessed dead and the netters was changed from this negative connotation to the netherworld, a place, gloomy place of the damned. And I've mentioned this before. RCH, they don't know really how. These are three different speculations that scholars give. It's a good example of how different the same spelling can be interpreted because of this problem about where the vowels were and what they were. Warka, Uruk, and Eric, three different translations of the same, transliterations of the same place in the Chaldea area, and that to have some similarity to Warka. They were the home of the Erecteds, those that were had a Naga as their so-called family totem, as did the Yadus at Dvorka. And of course, in the story of the big flood, this place disappeared into the sea and all that, and Dvorka was supposed to have disappeared into the sea. An interesting note about Chaldean and so forth, the root there, Kala, is probably related to Kali. The city of Babylon, the name or the word Babel means confusion, as in the Old Testament Tower of Babel story. And the imagery of Babylon, the whore of Babylon, the mother of harlots and the enemy of the ancient church and so forth, is that familiar form of Kali seen on the beast of prey with the red dress, drunk on the blood of the saints, and so forth. And Of course, Kali in Sanskrit means confusion, and Babel means confusion. So here we have the name Babylon and Babel, the whore who is who is drunk on the blood of the saints. Pictured in the New Testament is that heretical left-hand tantric Kali cult, which has been the Anat Set cult and so forth, which has been the Antichristos cult down through history. Elsewhere, I am discussing the business about the Nile and the Jordan and the Ganges descending from the foot of the Lord in heaven. Jordan means descender, and the mountains of Naharaim were the headwaters of the Jordan, and of course the Nile disappears into the mountains, and the Egyptian story was that it was coming from the foot of Purusha or Osiris, or from the body of Hapi, and the imagery of Yah in the Babylon epic and iconography is that he has water actually flowing out of his body. Of course, this is associated with the whole thing about Christ and the Jordan coming from the Lord, and the sacred rivers of the world issuing actually from Lord Narayan himself. H.R. again, that at this particular time of this usage, this word J.R. was actually the spelling of Heru, used in the Hebrew, so that the name of the great city of God, Jerusalem, was actually Hirosalima. This is what the Greeks and the Latin-speaking people called Jerusalem, and it's obviously their way of saying Jerusalem. Now, this word used at the same period of time is defined as meaning Most High, in which case it's directly like the holy name Ali in Aramaic, again, Most High, that meaning by association with H.R. or the deity we've discussed before. And in compounds in Sanskrit, the Y is used, so the name of the holy city would have been Haryashalam, contraction there, Haryashalam, and the Ashalam being as in Dharmashala. There's a Dharmashala or Ashalam associated with every Vaishnava temple. It's the precinct of the asylum. And Greek scholars say this is a negative prefix, a, and the root here is related to cutting. And so asylum means, according to these scholars, the place of no weapons, or the place of no slaying, no cutting. May be actually related to this name of heaven, or sanctuary, abode, and even the words isle, like an island. And Ashalam, which by association means peace. Of course, it's from the protection of the Ashala. It means peace, and it's a benediction that's given by Arabs today, Shalom Alaikum. And it probably is also related to to salute, shalom, and so on and so forth. All of these traditional greetings of peace or protection, wishing the other person sanctuary or asylum or protection. Now, this actually has several meanings. The word hall was actually related to the word shal. The first wooden enclosures being made from these shal trees or wood trees that were beneficial or good for that use, and many of which were some also called the shal trees with the meaning of thorns, associated with the acacius tree. The sharp needles of the acacius tree were used by the Shalakas, the Buddhist order of physicians, to perform surgery with. And so the very sharp needle of the acacius tree and other thorn trees in India are called shal trees. And the needle itself is called the shal. And that's why the surgeons were called the Shalakas. So there may be some connection there with this meaning as given by the Greek scholars, because, again, the negative prefix and the idea of something to cut or to pierce. Otherwise, the word may actually have several valid interpretations, all associated, however, with the shal tree and the idea of a sanctuary, a protected place where nothing can harm the person. And the put as a hell, and the kind of double meaning or role of the agricultural deity Pluto with the underworld, and the Greek word ptala may be related to a pun based on the word for plow, and the Sanskrit word for plow, and the Greek word for plow, and the traditional hells or underworlds. So that in the Sanskrit, hala is plow, and is apparently related to this word, ptala, and the patala lokas are the lower worlds in some Indian literature. And Pluto, who was an agricultural deity, was a deity of the underworld as well. But there's definitely a relationship here between these hells, so to speak. This is Regnat, or the rain. Rain, R-E-I-G-N. Anyway, is related to this root here in Latin. It's from, again, related to the Sanskrit rex, or the Greek rex and the Sanskrit raj. And the age of Saturn is the celebrated golden age. Note golden in all the many, many words, HR words, which mean golden. So are the Hari age, the Edenic age of the earth. And this is the Satya Yuga, or the reign of goodness, the age of goodness in Vaishnava tradition. The Sattvatas, from the same root where the worshippers of Krishna or Vishnu. This is related to what is good again. And as a matter of fact, just as Tame in the Hebrew is related to Tamo, or what is filthy, defiled, or ignorant, terrible in Sanskrit and the Hebrew. Similarly, in the Hebrew, there's a word shat, or chat, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, which is exactly correlates nicely with this root sat here, meaning what is good and pure and noble and praiseworthy and so forth. So anyway, the association of Saturn with the Golden Age is very interesting because actually the name Sani, which is the name of Saturn, is also a name of Vishnu or Hari. This word is described by Western scholars in a way is very similar to the way they describe the word asylum. The A is a negative prefix, and they said this has to do with being bound or harmed in some way. I can't remember exactly how, but the meaning is in the adytum of the church, which is the inner sanctuary. It's a place where a person cannot, no one can lay hands on them. A person cannot be bound or be harmed in any way. Now the Adityas, Ditya are the demons in the evildoers in the Vaishnava tradition. These demonic persons born of Ditya, and Ditya in the Sanskrit is related to this word here, which I think has to do with binding or harming, and the A is a negative prefix, so that the godly, the unrighteous were the Dityas, and the godly were born of the righteous Aditya. And the Adityas were 12 in number, and the Supreme Aditya, they were small A Adityas, and the big A Aditya was Vishnu, name of Vishnu. And this, by association, if we look in the Heliopolitan cult again, the Supreme Deity Vasudev, or Helios, had these expansions. And the temples of the Asila Federation were the ones that had the adytums or the sanctuaries where no one could be harmed. And so that this appears, this word appears by association to be the inner sanctuary of the temples of the Adityas, or of the various expansions of Vishnu in the temples of the Asila Federation, and the Aditum was their inner sanctuary. Again, I mentioned earlier the words arcane and so forth as related to the archana or icon of the Lord. Here's some other words: archive and arcana. The ark, of course, can be seen as the seat, mercy seat, of the Vasudeva and the king at Heliopolis, the incarnation of Hari. The box or chest contains relics, sacred relics of the deity, and the box is ornamented in Egypt with lotuses to symbolize its that this person is an incarnation of Narayan or Abhidev and so forth. Yah, an incarnation of Yah, and either empowered or, if they believed he was actually directly the deity himself. And the ark itself was the place in which was the place at which the Lord manifested himself to the Jews, and it was called the mercy seat. And it was interesting that it was considered like the throne of God, and the Lord appeared to the Jews as in his Shekinah, or in his effulgence, blinding effulgence right above the mercy seat, between the winged persons on each side. We see this exact same configuration in the icons of Usur, and in the pictures of the incarnate king, the Pharaoh, sitting in state on the mercy seat, which is this chest or box, flanked by his two consorts with their wings in the same position that they're described in the Old Testament. And the poles, the hardware on the ark itself is described exactly the same way that we see in some of the antiquities that have been preserved from Egypt, where the ark has the gold ornamentation and the pole places for poles to be inserted so it can be carried. And of course, the business by association of what is ancient, hidden, or venerable has to do with the archana of the Lord, where the manifestation of the Lord, whether it was the aniconic form being a manifestation in the Sanskrit, still like for instance the Shalagram Shila is still considered an archana, or whether it's carved by a person or not wasn't important. If it was a relic or a form emerging manifestation of the deity, then it was an archana. And just as in many of the temples in the Orient, the original form is kept in an aran, or a ark, or chest, and even the priests don't see it from century to century. There's a substitute form, or another copy, which is kept for processional purposes and for feast days and so on and so forth, so that the original relic remains. Again, it's arcane, it's arcana, it's arcana, it's ancient, venerable, and hidden by association. So above the Aron, or the Hebrew Ark of the Covenant, the Lord Yahweh, so to speak, or Eli, appeared in this form of effulgence. And there are, of course, stories about how when they offered, sons of the priesthood offered strange fire or unsacred fire to the deity, or strange incense, that the burning effulgence of the Lord came out from the above the Ark of the Covenant and incinerated them. If we look into the Zoroastrian tradition, we see that the form of Ahura Mazda or Zervan, which I've described elsewhere as being variously the Zervan is the Narahari form of Vishnu, and Ahura is the Purusha form of Vishnu. Above the throne, so to speak, of Ahura Mazda, or the place of worship, the Lord Ahura Mazda manifests his Harena, which I have showed the spelling of elsewhere, H-V-A-R-E-N-A, or something, or the Hare, or H-V-A-R-E, which again is the discus of, or his discus, which is his weapon. So it's also very interesting to see that the Jews who worship the Narahari, or wrathful form of the deity, as time personified, and who are very militaristically inclined, because they considered themselves the servants of the Lord in his wrathful form of chastising the miscreants. They served the law of God. They were worshiping the Lord in this Narahari form, and they were also worshiping the discus, or the hare, or the effulgence of the Lord, which is considered one of his weapons, with which he annihilates the miscreants and also the creation when necessary. In a number of the Vaishnava stories, the Lord sends his discus after great sinners, dispatches them with decapitates them or whatever with his discus. So we see that the discus, which in one case might be seen as very benevolent, worshipable, solar imagery and so forth, is also considered to be a symbol of God's wrath, and is used to annihilate the evildoers. Of course, the so-called fish symbol is one of the earliest of Christian symbols, and the explanation is usually given that the word for fish in Greek constitutes the letters of the title of the Lord. But, in fact, this sign is called Timi, and it is the sign of the god of love in Vaishnavism. It's a symbol of Krishna in his manifestation of the god of love. And it's also a Vaishnava symbol for Matsya, so that the worshippers of Matsya, Krishna as Matsya, would have this particular symbol tattooed perhaps or paint this on their body with the Tilak, the anointing oil or water of the river of ablution. And sometimes this would be branded also on, devotees would want to have this branded on them. Krishna also has this symbol on his foot, or sometimes they say elsewhere on his body. It's one of the auspicious signs that he is the Lord, or when he appears that he has this symbol showing that he is the deity that appeared as Matsya. Now, it being used as a symbol of Christ, there also is the connection with the dolphin used as a symbol of Christ. The dolphin on an anchor, for instance, is Helios Delphinos, who saved the Deucalion, the Greek Noah, by towing him to safe harbor in his ark as a great dolphin pulling on the anchor rope. This is also related to the Cretan story of the salvation of the, sometimes they say, Phoenician colonists who were going to be killed in the storm and were towed to safe port at Crete by the Lord Helios in the form of a great dolphin. And the symbol of Christ as a dolphin, or the dolphin with an anchor rope, they say, well, that's because symbolizes that the ark or the boat is the church or the soul, and Christ is taken to safe harbor, and they don't usually connect it with the Helios cult. So they've kind of lost that connection, but it is still being replicated as a Christian symbol in churches today. Now, this actually was to be a little person with four arms here, which would be the symbol of Dagon Sahari, or Dagon should be, with a like Baal, later a term used for the like the Antichrist or the anti-God, but only because Dagon was kind of generic, had degraded from a title of God to a generic term, and then been associated more and more with the left-hand tantrikas and the apostate and heretical groups. And this should be Sa-Hari. This was the Canaanite form of Yah, the Babylonian Yah, and the Hebrew Yah, or Vishnu as Matsya, or Vishnu as also Vishnu associated with Anantadev, also in some respects. And Narayana, of course, as in the Nazarene cultus. The Buddhists call him Makindranath. And we have another section in the visual part showing a lot of the different murtis of Matsya and so forth. And this just shows that the conch shell, which is associated with Ananta as a kind of a symbol, like the palm frond and so forth, that it was used and early as a baptism symbol, and there seemed to be a tradition that the water of baptism was poured from a scallop shell, and the shell niche, later shell niche of the saints, or the the sacred personalities. And most early, they were these so-called shell niches of the deity, which I have showed elsewhere. Or ambans, again, were reminiscent of the hoods of Anantashesha-naga. This section on forms is just this is an example of what would be showing the symbols, the reduced forms of the Lord, which were aniconic principally. In other words, we're looking in the visual sections at a whole lot of iconic forms where the Lord is represented with the so-called anthropomorphic icon. And in fact, the scriptures all describe these human-like forms of the Lord. Also describe, as in the Vaishnava tradition, that before the Lord was worshipped in these iconic murtis or forms, he was worshipped in aniconic forms, like as matcha and kurma, and had these various and the scallop shell and the shalogram shilas, the miraculous stones and the miraculous fire of the, for instance, the natural gas flume, which was the shrine of Zeus Velchenos, or Jupiter Infernalis, and which is apparently the form of the Lord that was worshipped on Mount Sinai, as he was worshipped at the other limnos, so-called limnos shrines of the Asila Federation in ancient times. Many of his most famous oracles were at these so-called limnos shrines, taking its name from the very important natural gas flume shrine or oracle that was on the Isle of Limnos. Okay, I'm done, Prabhu. I'll talk some more. The importance here of the narwhal is that the number one, narwhal was also a term used for Delphinos, and they were interchangeable. Delphi, as I've mentioned before, Delpha is Greek for Garba, and Garba, Dakshai Vishnu, was the form of the Lord, along with Matsya, that was worshipped at Delphi. And these terms, Delpha or narwhal, are interchangeable because the whole family, the dolphins and the narwhal and the whales, were all womb fish. Delpha means womb in Greek and in Sanskrit. Now, the importance of this name here in the northern tradition is that the narwhal is frequently depicted as a specific creature of the whale family that Matsya is paired as. The dolphin with a long snout here, in some cases, is actually considered a narwhal. So sometimes Matsya is depicted with this long horn on his nose. And sometimes the anchor rope is wrapped around this horn. Anyway, and as a matter of fact, sometimes the Anantashesha-naga is considered the anchor or the rope that how he spread his body between the ark of Manu and Matsya. Now, if you look in the Nordic languages from which this form is found, you'll find that the K was added, and that it was actually nar. This was an H. The W here was added, and the different Northern European languages that this is found, it becomes clear that this is actually HL or HR in R, which gives us again Nara, they had here, Nara Hari. The pun here is that Nara, again, like in Narayana, means both water and man. And Hari, of course, is Vishnu or Krishna. And so this name would then therefore mean the form of Lord Hari, which is in the water. Another important feature that connects people from the west to the east is their tonsure. As I described earlier, dress and hair, as well as body mark, identified people belonging to different religious groups or different masters or owners or whatever the case may be. And there's an interesting feature of tonsure that connects the devotees of the one God and separates them from others from the east to the west. And it seems to be related to the instruction in the Old Testament. One of the there are so many the Ten Commandments, so to speak, and then there are the other commandments. I'm not sure, 200 and some different commandments for the very Orthodox Jews that they still observe today. And one of them, something to the effect that thou shalt not miter the corners of thy hair. And this has been taken to mean with the Orthodox Jews that the earlocks around the front of the ear and the beard should never be trimmed. And the very Orthodox will shave the rest of the head. The Catholic seem to have interpreted this very early in the very early church as the edge of the hairline and shave the top. In China, they shaved the whole head and left a sika like the Vaishnavas of today usually do, only they braided it frequently. And in Egypt, the lock of youth was a sika, but it was more to the side of the head, and it was frequently braided. And this is very frequently shown on Kanchu. The Vaishnavas in India and other groups over time too also adopted some of this, but it's clearly originally a Vaishnava tradition. Have either a very small sika, a small area of the head left unshaved. This is the religious, of course. And when a boy, it's a very important part of kind of like a first profession in some particular schools of Vaishnavism. Where it's short, it's just a small patch, but then after a time it gets quite long. People end up putting it into a knot, knotting it up on the top of the head in some kind of a manner or other. Can I push the button for the next one here?
Sure.
Okay. Sometimes the front of the head is shaved and the whole back is left long. Like we saw earlier, a Theseus, or so-called Theseus tonsure, would have been also like the Vaishnava with a small sika on the back. Sika means flag. But the sika could either be small or the whole back of the head could be left to grow quite long. And when it becomes very, very long, then again they bundle it up on top of their head like this. And this can be seen amongst the Kshatriyas, this particular form. And the reason why it's called the Theseus tonsure in the West is because in the cultus of Helios, Theseus and Heracles, of course, are great heroes in the cultus of Helios. And when they were at the Helios temple and they were making their profession in some stories, they got this tonsure, and Theseus is very, very famous for having this tonsure, and so that's why it's called the Theseus tonsure. And the speculation that the Westerners, scholars, give about the Theseus tonsure, or the habit in the Helios cult, especially amongst the Kshatriyas, of shaving the front of the head, is that in warfare and hand-to-hand combat, they didn't want someone to be able to grab them by the hair on the front of their head and to strike them. So that was their argument. Now here's again with the bundle on the top of the head and so forth. This particular tonsure here is also associated with Theseus, and there are very early seals showing this in use on the island of Crete. Sometimes it was all the way from the front of the hairline all the way to the back of the hairline that they let the script grow. And later helmets, of course, when they started using helmets to protect the head, they would add horsehair or some other hair and reproduce this kind of horse mane tonsure on top of the helmet, which used to be on their head. Another form of it was to take the sika and to bind it, make a knot here around it, or to bind it up with string or something so that it stuck straight off the top of the head. And we also see that in the helmets, which had a sika like this made out of horsehair or some other kind of hair, a streamer kind of on the top of the helmet, like this would be on the helmet, or this would be on the helmet. So these are all tonsures that are associated with the Helios cult in the East and the West, all the way through China and even into Japan. Now, and also amongst the Egyptians, they say, well, the cult of Isis or Serapis are the ones that have these particular different tonsures, the sidelocks and so forth, as we saw before. And so, again, we see the continuity of this all the way from Egypt and the Mediterranean across the planet up to right down into the samurai in Japan, all associated with the worship, the same cult, and the certain particular, more particular forms of it, like this one and this one, associated with the Kshatriyas, or the warriors of the cult, and the other type more associated with the priests. 108 is a very sacred number to the Vaishnavas, and it's associated with various things, numbers of gopis, Krishna's wives in Dwarka, 16,108. It's associated with the petals by some, in some schools, with the petals of the Goloka Vrindavan, the supreme abode. The number occurs many places. The Sri Yantra, the triple Sri Yantra contains, I think, 108 sides. And the japa beads, or prayer beads of the Vaishnavas, contain 108 beads, one of which is a head, 108 beads plus a head bead. And the head bead is Krishna, and the 108 beads are 108 gopis of Krishna. And Mahayana Buddhists also use 108 beads, and they chant the names of Buddha on the 108 beads, or a certain mantra invoking Buddha on the 108 beads. The Catholics have a 54-bead rosary, and I mentioned in the earlier section all the connections between the word rosary and Japamala, so I won't be redundant here. The Muslims also use the prayer beads. They chant 99 names of God, I believe, or 100 names of God, or one is the ineffable, possibly. I can't remember for sure right at the moment. Prayer beads, this is very important. The etymology, what the philologists have discovered about the word bead. The English word bead, or the use of beads for prayer, is so ancient that it's completely inseparable from our concept of prayer. The word bead comes from the word bead, meaning to bid, pray, or plead. See the association, the origin here of the word bid, to petition. Now, if you go to India or Sri Lanka and so forth, and you see the priests who are invoking the presence of the deity in the icon, or in the temple, or in the fire for sacrifice, or they're invoking the presence of the deity in the beginning of the day, they call it awaking the deity, actually. So that when the priest goes into the temple in the morning, he says he's going to awake the deity. Or when someone installs an icon in a temple, they invoke the presence of the deity into the icon, they say that they're going to awake it. And when the sacrifices are made and the the priest actually makes the action that is associated with the invocation. He'll intone P-H-A-T in the Sanskrit, patha. And this is usually translated by Western scholars as crack or opening. It's like the sound of something opening. It's somewhat considered to be a sound that awakes, almost. So that when one approaches the inner shrine of the deity, they make a clapping sound, or they when they shout the name of or call out the name of the Lord, and they say patha. Anyway, we see here the linguistic relationship between the B-D-H and the P-H-T-H, actually, or T, in the Sanskrit. And bud, the root, is to awake. Now, I believe this is really by association here. And what we have, in fact, is the ancient root, meaning it's the act of to bid or to pray or to plead or to petition by invoking the name of the deity. So, and to awake, bring to consciousness, to open the channel between, if you will, to invoke the presence of the deity. Now, here is the name of the Egyptian form of the deity who is famous amongst Western historians of religion as being the form of the creator deity that the great Greek philosophers most worshipped and respected, because in the stories about Ptah, he created by invocation. All he did was speak the name of things and they came into existence. And the pun here is that the Egyptian glyph for open has the phonetic value of Ptah. So we see there the association with the Sanskrit, or the invocation, all meaning by association, because it is the act itself, the primeval prayer, which is to call out the name of God with the beads, the prayer beads, primitive prayer, to call out the name of God, invoking His name, bringing everything into consciousness, everything from primordial unconsciousness and darkness and chaos, by naming, to call it into being, call it into consciousness, to invoke the presence, the reality, and to awake the Spirit of God, or to